Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unschooling Lifestyle. Today, I have my friend and colleague, Stephanie Eige, and her and I connected through Dana Martin's program, advocacy and coaching program. She did it a little bit before me, but we're both, been under the mentorship of Dana Martin from Radical Unschooling. So here we are to talk about Stephanie's experience and what she's working on and learn more about her journey. Good morning, Stephanie. How are
Good
you?
morning. Hi, Juliet. I'm great. Great to see you.
Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your family?
Yes, so I have two teenagers. My son just turned 16, and my daughter will be 15 in July. And we started unschooling unexpectedly, actually. I didn't even know that the word existed
Wow.
until I realized that we were doing it.
Okay.
So, and that started about 7 years ago. Our journey started with pulling out of public school after they had gone through second and third grade.
Okay.
And I realized it just was not working. I could see like the light diminishing in their
Mhm.
eyes for
Yes.
learning. And I never thought about homeschooling before,
Okay.
but I just felt like I can't let them still be in this place anymore. And so we did virtual school for a year.
So you did virtual school before it was even a thing, right? Because you said that
Yes.
7 years ago.
Yeah, it was, we used K-12
Okay.
and it was a good transition. So for someone
Okay.
that's coming from public school, thinking about homeschooling and not really understanding how many different options there are, it was a great way to make the transition into
To
homeschooling.
get your feet wet.
But I
Yes.
learned after the first 2 or 3 months that it wasn't going to be what we did forever. We,
Okay.
I learned very quickly that I had to play a game. I had to play the system.
Mhm.
So every lesson was down into chunks that they would have done if they were in a public school setting. And they
Okay.
didn't need all that repetition. They could look at something and go ahead and finish it without doing it 4 or 5 times. And
Yes.
so I just played the game, marked things done that
Hmm.
they didn't do, and just knew that, let's just get through this year. This is a great way. We have so much more free time. We tapped into the homeschool community and,
Hmm.
went to a lot of different play dates and different classes, like through the parks department and those kinds of
Okay.
things. And so after that year, I decided we were just going to do our own thing. And we actually went to a micro school for one semester. And that was going well too, but that also was a little less flexible. So, they
Okay.
went 2 days a week for 4 hours, but it was on the days of the things that we had met other people, other homeschoolers, and we
Mhm.
wanted to do things with them. And I decided I was going to pull them out at the Thanksgiving break because there were only 2 more weeks after that. And I
Okay.
had family coming to visit. And so I just decided, we're not going to do this and we'll see what happens after Christmas and we'll figure it out then.
Okay.
And then my husband got a job offer to move. And
Oh my goodness, sounds like a
very
lot.
quickly, yes, we had the house packed up and staged to sell. He moved to start his job. We were still home with most of our belongings in storage,
Oh wow.
waiting for the house to sell. And that's when I was like, we didn't do anything that looked like school.
High school, yes.
And that's how unschooling started for our family. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know that it was a thing. I had no idea.
That,
We were just going about our days and doing whatever made us
mhm.
happy. And then
Yeah.
we moved.
And where did you move from? So what state did you start it and where did you move to? Where are
we
you
started
right
in,
now?
we started in Florida and we moved to
Okay.
Tennessee.
Okay. Now, what are the difference? I think a lot of us have gone through the, like the legalities and the requirements. What was your transition in terms of that, the legalities of like homeschooling, in Florida versus Tennessee? Are they
Well,
similar?
they are similar. And I just happened through a recommendation of someone used an umbrella school called Home
Okay.
Life Academy. And
Oh,
it
okay.
just so happened that they were like maybe in 5 or 6 states, and Florida and Tennessee
We're
happened to
one of
be
them.
them. So
Okay.
I was able to just move and not have to do anything,
Efficient.
which
Okay.
was really nice. But I
Okay.
just got lucky.
Yeah, no, but I love that. I think, that's often, for parents, it's like that's one of the hurdles, before you get
Right.
started. Like you have to look into that, whether testing is required, whether it's not. I know Michigan is a very friendly state for homeschooling and I think for legality purposes, that's how unschooling is seen in most states
Hmm.
as a modality of homeschooling. So
Right.
do you have to do anything special in Tennessee now, like after you realize that you were like kind of like unschooling versus the traditional homeschooling and using that umbrella school or
So the umbrella school that I use has limited requirements. You have
okay.
to once a year, you have to put in your educational plan,
Okay.
um, and then you have to record attendance twice a year. Now, your plan, there are no requirements for what your plan is. You can
Okay.
make your plan anything you want, and the one that I use is very unschooling friendly. In fact, I just did a transcript review for my son, who's
Okay.
16, because he wants to do dual enrollment in the fall, and so he'll be attending community college while also getting high school credit. And
Okay.
so I went through one of with their counselors, and she cleaned up the transcript to make it look like what colleges want to see, knowing
Mm-hmm.
full well that we're unschoolers and we don't have like structured curriculum.
Okay.
Totally fine with it. She's like, I just need to use the right language, and we need to make this, instead of it calling it this, we're going to call it this, and everything's fine. No questions asked.
Okay, okay. I love
So
that though, because I was just talking to someone yesterday and that she was asking, we were talking about the college aspect. And I'm like, well, colleges look at different things now, when they have children that have come from an unschooling background and stuff like that. So you guys were able, so you stay with the umbrella school since you moved
yes,
to Tennessee, right? And you guys been
yes.
there since? Okay,
Yep.
okay.
And so this process with the dual enrollment, I've learned for homeschoolers, the portfolio is really
Hmm.
important.
Okay.
You can make the transcript. They'll help you if you're with an umbrella school or if you do it yourself. You can be registered just through the county here also, and you
Hmm.
can make your own transcript. But the portfolio is what makes homeschoolers stand out, because we
Okay.
typically have so many more unique options, and we've done different things that people in public school haven't done.
Hmm.
And so now that's what I've worked on, is really enhancing the portfolio.
Okay.
So
What is your way of doing the portfolio?
it's through my umbrella school. They have
Okay.
an online portal that is where you keep your grades, your attendance, and you can put your portfolio. You can
Okay.
also make your own portfolio. It does not, you don't
Yes.
have to use theirs. Any program that you find that works for you, you can use.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think I started doing that too because I was like recording. I'm like, we have traveled, we have taken so many trips throughout the year, and there
Mm.
has been so many experiences throughout the year that I was like, I have an online version, I have a written version.
But um, let me quickly talk about something else that I've learned, because as
Okay,
my kids have gotten older, there's just, like a little bit new,
of
every stage
course.
is, there's something a little bit different. And I think this is really important for people that are worried about, well, what about college?
I love that. I love that. Yes.
So I have literally just gone through this experience with my son. He decided he wanted to do the dual enrollment,
Okay.
and so we were going to go down a different road first. First, we were going to do something that's called middle college,
Okay.
and I realized, and they had specific ACT requirements. But then I realized you had to be registered through the county to make that happen, and I wanted to continue with our other registration with our
Mm-hmm.
umbrella school. So he still wanted to do the ACT because it will allow him to test out of some of the classes so he can start at a higher level.
Okay.
So he had not done any formal math classes since he was 10 or 11 years old. And that was the one section that we were a little bit concerned about for the ACT. So he started with a private tutor in October, and he took the ACT in February, and he
Oh,
learned
wow.
enough algebra 1, algebra 2, and geometry to score 2 points higher than he needed for his ACT to test out of things.
I love
So
that.
I can, from personal experience, I can attest, if somebody wants to learn something and they're
Yes.
motivated, we will
Mm-hmm.
find a way for it to happen, and they will end
Mm-hmm.
up getting what they need. So anyone that's worried about college, and maybe it will take a little longer for some people, but
Yes.
that's okay. The whole point is, if that's what they want, you can help find the resource and you can make it
Yes.
happen. So,
Yes.
like, no fear whatsoever. Just let it go.
I know. And that is some of the hardest things that I know in my journey. I worked through that. And Stephanie and I are together in a mastermind class with Dana where we just collaborate and kind of talk about what our journey is, or advocates and coaches. But one of the things that she said, and then I love about her journey in particular, is that she was able to, she said, I just let go of that fear, and I just wanted to, and this is probably one of the biggest fears that people have as they transition into unschooling. So can you walk us through, how did you get there?
So, one of the things that I have realized is that unschooling is so much more about doing the work on yourself to let
Yes.
it happen. The kids are going to be fine, no matter what
That's
age they
perfect. Yes.
are. If
Mm-hmm.
they have been in school for a long time, it will take them a little time to de-school and lose some of that conditioning.
Yeah.
The first couple years, I remember the kids like every maybe 3 or 4 months, like, are you sure we don't need to be doing something? Are you sure we don't
Oh,
need
they
a
themselves were
workbook?
wondering. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
just because they had been in school and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you really don't. If you want one, we'll get one for you if that would make you feel more comfortable, but you really don't need one. And every time they would ask a question, I would have to really reflect and see, like, what was my answer for that.
Yes.
So, there was a time period of letting go of like bedtimes and,
Yes.
just things that you think you have to have. And they would say, well, but why does it matter? And I could not give them an answer.
I love that.
And the more and more that I worked through those things and realized
Mm-hmm.
that I was working from a place of conditioning and a place of fear that
Yes.
what would happen. And I couldn't come up with anything bad that was going to happen for any of these things that we were confronting. And just over time, it just slowly went away. And I'm like, what am I afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Everything will work out fine. So what if somebody doesn't understand what we're doing? It doesn't, they're not in our life. They're not, it just
Exactly.
doesn't matter.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I read a book called, it's by Dr. Nicole LaPera, and that's Lepera, LaPera.
Say
Um,
I heard her name before, I think.
she's on Instagram, Facebook, as the holistic psychologist.
Okay.
And her book is called How to Do the Work. And I
Mm,
read through that book and it really made me look inward and figure out where, like, what, what I was going through and why I was afraid of things.
okay.
And it just helped me work through that. She has since I read it, she's added a workbook now. For me, I didn't need to write down the work and figure it out. I could just process it in my head.
Oh my
But for
goodness.
people that
That's
like
so
to
good.
have the book,
So good. So good that you can do that. I'm a write it down type of
yeah,
person though. But I mean, I work through it, but then I need those words. I feel like
yeah,
for me it's those feelings by putting them on paper. It's like getting
right.
them out of myself, and I'm separating myself from them. But I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah,
cool.
she's got the workbook now. Definitely follow her socials.
Hmm.
What I really love about her is she is educated as a traditional psychologist, but has also done all of the holistic work and comes from a place of being holistic. So,
Hmm.
she has tools and resources from a more traditional background, but she integrates them. And
Hmm.
I like that because I am a in my head kind of a person and a logical thinker, but I
Hmm.
also feel very much, I feel things intuitively, and learning to put those two things together is great. And she's just a great resource for that.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. So, and I know, as you went through this book and through this process, what is your husband's, because you started, like, you knew that they shouldn't be in public school anymore.
Mhm.
So what is your husband's journey? Is it the same as yours?
Definitely not the same. He definitely
I
did
think,
not get there at the same time.
okay, okay. Can you just share a little bit about how that was for both of you
Yes.
and just for him in particular?
Yeah. So when I pulled the kids out of public school, I knew that I was going to have resistance.
Mhm.
We come from a background of educators. His mom was a teacher. My mom was a teacher and a principal. And
Wow.
we both were brought up in public school, and that's, all that we knew. But I just knew, like my gut, I just knew that I had to get them out. So I actually registered them in the umbrella school and did all of the paperwork and had it finished before I even told him what was
Oh
happening.
my goodness. That is so brave. I love that.
Yeah,
Good for
because
you.
I felt like if I didn't do that,
Yeah.
I would let myself get talked out of it.
Yes. Oh,
And so
I know that feeling.
I don't normally like hold things back. We have been married, oh God, this year is going to be 28 years. So,
Wow.
like, what? You don't stay together if you hold things back
If
from
you
each other.
hold
So,
things,
I don't usually
absolutely.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that I had to. So, he was, a little unsure about things, but
Of
trusted my
course.
judgment. And, because of the trust that we have with each other, he was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And, he would just ask questions every once in a while. And when we, like after we moved and we weren't doing anything, he was a little nervous and like, well, at least have somebody come in and like do math with him. And so we did have a tutor come to the house once a week for, I don't know, maybe 3 months that
Okay.
would do math with them. And so it was like little things like that. The more I like realized that we were unschooling and I was just trying different programs, like I would find a science class to go to
Mm-hmm.
or just things to get them out. So that kind of kept him like, oh, okay, well, they're doing something that looks like school. So
Uh-huh.
he just kind of stayed hands off. I trust you, whatever, like, if you say it's okay, then it's okay. And then what really solidified it for him that he genuinely like got it
Okay.
was when his office shut down in 2020
Mm-hmm.
and he had to work from home and he was home with us for the first time, like all
Yes.
the time. And I know that the pandemic was really difficult for a lot of people,
For a
but
lot of
it
people, yes.
actually was the absolute best thing that ever happened to our family
Yeah. Same
because
here.
he travels for work quite a bit and then he was at the office and so he was only home, such a minimal part of our days and our lives and didn't really see what was happening. He just but it allowed him to be around and like fully integrate into what we were doing, and it just everything started clicking and he
Wow.
just totally got it. Like he just really fully, like he believes in it now. He promotes unschooling to other people, talks
I
about
love
how
that.
great everything is. So first, I think it can be really hard for dads that aren't at home as often if they are
Yes.
working outside of the home or traveling or
Exactly.
just in the office all the time. um you kind of almost just have to experience it.
Yes. Yes.
And I
Without a
would
doubt.
suggest for dads out there, if even if you aren't able to be home and experience it, like trust your partner to, like, if they really are feeling it and you see that
Mm-hmm.
everybody's happy, just like lean into that trust, even if you have some fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll strengthen everyone's relationship.
Yes, I really believe that too. It's so hard for the dads that they don't see what goes on.
Hmm.
So to kind of like be on the same page, but definitely trusting your partner and know it and talking about it. I feel
Yeah.
like for us it was a lot of working through our fears together,
Yeah.
because we both had come from different backgrounds, my husband and I, that we had different experiences in our schooling, years and stuff like that. So working through that helped us come
Yeah.
to the point that we're at today. But also the other aspect, you mentioned your mom was a teacher and a principal.
Hmm.
How does that was it really like pushback at the beginning, or how long did it take for her? Because I know she's also in many advocates for unschooling in any other environment outside of the school system come from the education background.
Right. It
How
took
did that
her
happens?
Yeah, it took her a little time to get there. When I first told her, as I'm saying this now, I can see her face. I literally watched her face, like her whole demeanor changed. She
Of
just had
course.
this look, she looked sick to her stomach.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
she was just like, could not believe that I had done that. But, and she didn't even know what to say. Like she was so taken aback. She didn't know what to say.
Oh, wow.
And so when we started with the virtual school, I had all the textbooks, and we were so excited. It was so fun to have all this cool stuff at home. And
Of course.
so like she wanted to be a part of it, obviously, because she had been a teacher. And so she would come over and in the morning, and we would like have our plan and get the books out and be at the table trying to make the kids do this work. And they were just like, oh my God, they were so miserable.
Yeah,
And so she and I both realized very quickly that you cannot recreate school at home. Like
exactly.
we had to totally switch gears and flip. And she worked through that with me, and we just kind of like we talked about it a lot because at the time we lived in the same neighborhood, so it was
Okay.
very close. She could just pop in, and because we lived 2 minutes from each other. And we worked through those first few months trying to figure out what was going to work. And
Yes.
she's just kind of she's been uncertain all along the way up until the last few years.
Hmm.
She Once she saw that homeschooling was working in general, she totally got on board with it and embraced it.
Okay.
But she still wanted to see like something that looked like school. And when we got to the point where we weren't doing anything that looked like school, she just would ask a lot of questions, and she would listen
Hmm.
to my answers and ask me to send her articles. And she did some like research on her own to see that I'm not the only one out there doing this.
Doing it.
Like there
Yes.
are other people that are doing this, so
Yes. I
it's
love
not just
that.
our family. And she now is like 100% on board and
Wow.
tells her educator friends how great unschooling is. And she's even said things in the past about like, I can't believe that I worked in the system and some of the things I used to make those kids do. She's like, now I can see it was just so unnecessary, but she's like, but that was what was expected and required.
Yes.
That's what I had to
Exactly.
do.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
total, total turnaround, embraces it, encourages it, just loves to see how both kids are on their both of mine have like a completely separate unschooling journey. They are very
Hmm.
different, have different paths. And she just fully supports whatever their choices are.
That's beautiful. So, talking through those difficulties, with your mom and kind of, making, sharing the philosophy with them, is that how you
Mhm.
got to advocacy and to Dana's program? Is that kind of, or what led you to say, I want to advocate for this lifestyle and for children's
Yeah.
rights?
Um, it came about in 2020 when,
Okay.
all of the programs that we had been involved in, everything was shut down. So there
Mm-hmm.
was more free time. There was more time to look inward, explore,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have the same time constraints that I did before. And I felt so good about where we were in our journey, and like how happy the kids were. And I had this overwhelming need to share it with other people so that they could get to this place that we were in
Yes.
and not feel so weighed down and stressed out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to be scrolling on Facebook and came across Dana's program. And it was the first time I had ever even seen anything from her. And I was like, I think this could be it. This could be something.
Mm-hmm.
This could be a way that I can help people get to where we are, because I want other people to feel this, like the weight being lifted from them, and
Yes.
just the joy and the freedom that I didn't know was possible.
Yes.
And yeah, so I just want everyone to get to the same place, because I don't like to see people so stressed out and hurt all the
I know.
time.
I know, and that is one of the hardest things to see, but also to know, to share with others that it is a journey, that it doesn't, as much as we would like to go fast and get to like this, place of enjoyment
Right.
and like, kind of blissful life, it kind of comes with its own I want to say struggles, but just rather inner work, this
Yeah.
discoveries that we have to go through in order to get here, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
I don't think you can't just tell someone and they can be like, "Oh, okay, well now I'm there because you said it."
mhm,
You have to get there on your own. And
yes.
it might take one person a few weeks, and it might take another person a few years.
Hmm.
But you have to do the work to get there yourself.
Yes, yes. And speaking of work, I think, I have done, that's probably the biggest growth that I've had in this journey is the work that have done on myself.
Yeah.
what kind of work and what kind of specific tools you have used to do the work that you had to do yourself to be able to get here?
Yeah. So that book that I mentioned before, How to Do
Mm-hmm.
the Work, that was definitely one of them. Um, Dana's books, she's got Raising Rebels, and I think I
Yes.
have it here, this one.
Yes, we love
um,
that.
yes, any of Dana's books, anything, I read everything by Blake Bowles. He is
Mm-hmm.
another great resource. I read a lot of Peter Gray's work, who
Yes.
publishes a lot in Psychology Today. Again,
Yes.
taking that traditional
Mm-hmm.
education and background, but they can see how you can apply it in such a different way,
Nice.
and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to, you don't have to be in that system. This other book, this is this one here. You can cut, well, it's blurring out a little bit, but it's called Reality is Broken.
Okay.
It's by Jane McGonigal, and it's Why Games Make Us Better and How They Can Change the World. It talks about video gaming and how it actually builds communities.
Oh, I
And
love that.
so it was really, that was really good too. She is a has her doctorate, works at a university, um, and so again, taking that traditional background and just, putting it out there that you can use this traditional
Yes.
information and see it in a different way. Um, it just constantly reading through, and I don't have to do it as much anymore, but when I
Mm-hmm.
first started, I read
It had
every
to be.
article I came
Mm-hmm.
across on Facebook. I
Yes.
read every post that was posted in Radical Unschooling.
Yes.
And I would read the comments because it would
Mhm.
help me understand where other people were coming from. And then I would see some people that didn't understand, the point of view, but it helped me then understand why I might be feeling the way that I was feeling by reading
Yes.
like
Mhm.
both sides of the comments. And I have on my website, actually, anything that like really strikes me, I post on there. I have a
Mhm.
resources page. And so I just put things in there, and I just
Yes.
continue to read and discover more
That
information.
is, yeah, that I have actually, I browsed through your website before our conversations, and it is so very helpful because it really breaks it down by like the deschooling process, what that is like. And I think, deschooling is very important, but I also
Yeah,
think it's, it's a process that continues to evolve because we deschool, we let go of one thing, but then something else kind of pops up, and you're like,
right.
oh, I have to work on this, and it continues to evolve. So I
Yeah.
love that you have that available. And the last book that you mentioned, that you spoke about, gaming is a big
Mhm.
one for people to let go. And one of my biggest aha moments came through gaming, and how I was not being respectful of what my son was building on, and I was just seeing that as like not worthy of his time per se.
Mhm.
Do you have gamers in your house?
My son he is an avid gamer. In fact, he is on Twitch and he's monetized.
Oh,
So it is
cool.
a big part of his life. And that was a hard one for me too.
Yes.
Watching my like 11, 12-year-old son
Mhm.
spend so much time on it. Uh, it was hard. Like that was one of the things I really had to work on letting go. And one of the ways that I did that was getting more involved in the gaming. Not
Yes.
that I was playing, but just asking more questions, trying to understand it more.
Hmm.
And he was happy to explain everything to me. And to this day, he's 16, he still will come and tell me things that have happened in his games, or like levels that he's gotten to, and how he had to work to get there. And
Hmm.
he knows I don't really even understand what he's talking about, but I'm interested, and I show him that I'm interested, and so he shares with me.
Yes.
um and now I fully embrace it. I totally get the community. I get all of the skills he's learning from it.
Yes.
Um, and through Dana's program and meeting other people online, I didn't understand online relationships. But now that
Mhm.
I have them myself. I have
Yes.
lots of friends now that are online that I've never met in person, and they're close friends. Like share everything with them. So actually going through that aspect of it,
Yeah.
also really helped me.
Yes.
So yeah, I think gaming is great. There's so much learned from it, so much
Yeah.
potential, so many great skills.
No,
And
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like some of our gaming, I mean, gaming, I never did it, but it was mostly because we never really had, I grew up in Mexico. So, and even my time, I was, like late 80s. I was born in 82. So my gaming time was Mario, Nintendo,
yeah.
the super old
Well, I
version.
remember when I was like in elementary school, I had an Atari.
Oh,
So,
yes,
yes, so I was born in 75. So, I had the Atari first. And oh my God,
yes.
I remember loving it. And I don't remember anybody ever telling me I couldn't play on it. And I would play for hours and hours at a time, and it was totally fine. It
That's
was not an issue
fascinating.
at all.
Yes. And
um,
now we try to control, how many, and I think we use at least in, at the beginning of when we started traditional homeschooling, the reward system of, if you do your work, you get to do your gaming, right?
right.
And I'm like that. And now that I think back, I'm like, that was so rude. Like, and I have apologized to my son because I'm like, I
Yeah.
know that was rude. And to
Yep.
interrupt his process of learning, in trying to achieve a level because they are so hard. I have tried to sit down with him and play, and I can't even get the use of the controllers right.
I
Like,
can't either.
you
I
know,
can't. Everything moves so fast now,
yes,
and the graphics are just so much more intense. I
they
maybe it's
are.
because we didn't grow up with it. Like I literally just
Mhm.
cannot focus. I cannot I
No,
cannot
I
figure
mean,
it out.
I am just amazed, like, the graphics, like you said, they are extremely like, I'm like, what? I wonder. And I ask constantly, I'm like, how do you think they make that, Anthony? And then he said, well, they use some of he says some techniques. I'm like, but what is that? He's like, well, they do this. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? And he's like, I don't know. I just learned it.
Right.
So, but I do know that, the learning that has happened, and it's something that you can quantify at all
Mhm.
times. And that is often scary for, for parents and for, yeah, people overall, when you are not able to quantify and to
Right.
measure what they're learning. But it comes out, and I think the happiness that they get to follow their own passion,
Yeah.
it doesn't really have a price or anything that you can put on that. So I love
Right.
that you went through that with your family. Now what about, so you say your daughter doesn't game, right? Or
She does not. Not at all. She went through a phase. She played a little bit on Roblox, but I
okay,
don't
but
know.
that's
I mean, I
about
guess
it.
that's technically gaming, but that's about it. Um,
I love that.
she is very, very different. She likes to have a little more structure. And
Hmm.
actually, for the first couple years that we were like fully unschooling, she kind of
Hmm.
struggled with it a little bit. Um, and it got to the point like I could tell she just really wasn't that happy. And I didn't understand why. Like you have all this freedom, you can literally do anything you want. Why was she not thriving
Why?
in the same way that my son was? And she's just a different personality. She needs a little bit more structure. She
Hmm.
likes to have someone suggest things for her to do
Hmm.
instead of like coming up with it on her own all the time.
Hmm.
And so for me, unschooling is all about educational freedom. And so
Yes.
it doesn't look the same for everyone. For
No,
her,
it's an
unschooling looks
invitation.
it exactly.
Yeah.
So she wanted a little more structure. So this last year, she was going like school year, she was going 1 day a week to a homeschool program and taking some traditional subjects. And she was enjoying it and she liked it until a few weeks ago, actually. And she decided that she was done. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to make you go
Hmm.
anymore. You got out of it what you needed for this
Hmm.
point in your life. And she's not sure what she wants to do next. She thinks she'd like to have maybe some like books to work on and some subjects, but she wants a little more accountability. So we don't know what we're going to do yet right
Hmm.
now. We're just going to take it a little, like day by day right now. All she cares
Hmm.
about is it's like almost summer and she's got a lot of public school friends and they'll be out of school. And she's like all about, the bikinis and the TikToks and, the hair and the makeup and shopping and that kind of stuff. And
Yes.
so, as long as she's happy, then that'll be her focus until she's ready for something else. And then I'll help
Yeah.
her figure out what that is.
Exactly. And I love that what you said about educational freedom, though, because normally I think if we start something, we are very keen on saying, well, if you start something, you have to finish.
Yeah.
and you're supposed to finish. But I'm like, as adults, we don't get put in that situation. If we're done with, so if
Right.
we start something and then we're done with it, it's okay for us to quit. But why
Right.
isn't that we can't let our children say, I got it, I got what I needed out of this. I think I want to move on to the next thing.
Yeah. And when she told me, like I get said, this was just a few weeks ago. My first, I had like a million thoughts like running through my head.
Of
Okay,
course.
how do I react to this? What do I say? What's the path going to be? There were only maybe 5 weeks left in the program. And
Hmm.
so I did have an initial thought, well, it's only 5 more weeks. It's already paid for. Let's just finish it out. But then
Hmm.
I was like, so every week we're going to get up early on that day and you're going to tell me you don't want to go and I'm going to
Hmm.
get in the and drive you for 45 minutes to
Oh,
this
wow,
place
that
knowing
was a
that you don't
that
want to
was a
be there
commitment.
anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like why am I going to do that? Like, you're not going to get anything good out of that
Out of it.
experience.
Exactly.
So
Hmm.
you're going to go through a few more chapters in, the history and the English and the science. Okay, but
That you're
you,
not even
you
going
don't
to
need
enjoy,
to.
like you said, you don't need to,
Right.
and you're probably not going to enjoy. And it's just
Yeah.
going to put just a little dent on the connection that you guys have built
Yeah.
over and trust over the years,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. So it started, she didn't want to do the home ec class anymore. And so that day that she told me that she didn't want to do any of it anymore, we were going for her to go do the rest of the school day and just leave early and not do home ec. And then she's like, I'm just kind of done. I'm like, okay, well, let's just go. We've got a couple things there you need to pick up. We'll just tell them that we're going to be totally done.
Done.
And she was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And so so that's what we did.
Yeah.
Because again, I was like, "Why? I'm just not going to force her to do anything that she doesn't want to
Hmm.
do. There is no benefit to it. There only
No.
will be a hurt relationship."
Yes.
So,
And I
yeah.
think, as because you know how people where somebody was at our house a couple of days ago picking up some, I don't know, some rocks or something, but they mentioned how they say, well, enjoy the younger years because when they become teenagers, they are
Ugh.
just terrible. And I'm like, that's a
Oh, I
terrible thing
I
to say.
hate hearing people talk about teenagers that way. I love my teenagers. I am We have such a great relationship.
Hmm.
They tell me anything and everything, sometimes things that I wish they wouldn't tell me. Like sometimes I don't really want to know that, but they're just like so fully coming into themselves and it's
Hmm.
so rewarding to see them figure out who they are and the different paths that they want to take and how they're like building confidence and just like
Hmm.
really figuring out who they are as people. And sure, they're irritable sometimes, but I'm irritable
But aren't we
sometimes.
all? Yes. Like,
We all
isn't
are.
that
It's
we all? Yeah.
Yeah. Like just because they're having a bad day doesn't mean that they're a terrible teenager. It just means they're having
Hmm.
a bad day.
Yeah.
And I have just learned, that I am going to get the eye rolls occasionally, but I give the eye rolls, like I
Oh,
do all of the same things. So
we
why
all
would it not
do.
be
Yes.
okay for them to be that same way? So,
Exactly. I love that though, because I think that's just so important for people to know because this connection that your family has been building over time though. So
mhm,
when you take the time and you have that freedom of letting them follow their paths and supporting their paths versus judging what they
right.
want to do, it really creates a more confident, person. And it
Yes.
and it shows in everything that they do. So I
Yeah.
love that. So, I know you guys started unschooling like early in their school, you said it was like first and second grade, right?
They finished second and third grade in
Oh, they
public
finished
school.
second and third grade though.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
now because they're older and you just talked about so many great topics about college, the relationship, and how to get to a point of letting go of fear. What
Mhm.
would you say to parents that perhaps have, children, around your children's age, if they're starting to think about this journey and, that they're thinking about it, but they're afraid, what would your words of wisdom would be for them?
Yeah. So just to trust is the biggest thing. You have
Yeah.
to learn to trust. And what's really hard for a lot of people is that we weren't trusted when we were growing up. And so you don't know what that feels like necessarily. And
Yes.
so you have to like just every time a fear comes up or something triggers you and it makes you afraid of something, you have to confront it head on. And you have to ask yourself, why am I afraid of this? And if you can't answer why you're afraid of it, maybe you can answer, well, what is it that you're afraid is actually going to happen?
Yes.
Okay, so if X happens, then what does that mean? And if you can't answer those questions in a way that actually something fearful, something bad could happen, then
Mm-hmm.
you need to let it go. so
Um,
so I would just say, just even if you're afraid, just work through the process
mm-hmm.
and you will come out, together. You'll figure it out together. Don't
Together.
try to figure it all out for them.
Yes.
Like walk with them through the
Mm-hmm.
process.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to tear down all the walls for them. Like a part of it is letting them figure that out for themselves. And you're just there as the support and
Yes.
the resource when they need a little bit of help. So like letting them really figure out what they want. And
I
it'll be
love
harder
that.
for a teenager like that has
Mhm.
always been in the system. It's going to be
To
harder
give
for them.
time.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think that the schooling process is definitely not, it's not just for the parents, but it's also for them, as
Yeah.
people that they have been in the system for a little while, for a
Yeah.
couple of years. Even my
Yeah.
son, we started when he was in like technically first grade, and he had to go through some deschooling process
Yeah.
himself from just being in a kindergarten, and he was in a Montessori setup. So um,
Right.
so everything is,
Yeah.
there's always something to let go.
Patience. It
Mhm.
just takes patience because it's not going to happen overnight. It is going
No.
to take time.
Yeah.
And even if you see that they are embracing it, that doesn't mean there might not be a setback. They might
Mhm.
think all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I have all these friends that are going to school and they keep asking me, well, what about this and what about that? And it can create fear in them even when they've worked through it. It can still come
Mhm.
back.
It could,
So
yes.
just
Mhm.
be patient, and let them work through that process again. Don't give up. Just keep
Yes.
trusting the process.
I love that. And as you continue to, trust their process, and now that you moved on to like advocacy and
Mhm.
coaching, what are you working on, and what are your services to other people that perhaps are in this transition?
Yeah, so I work with people that either have been unschooling for a while, or and maybe just something comes up that they're having a hard time working through.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, really, I feel like as a coach, I'm almost more of just a listener because I
Okay.
feel like everybody really has the answers within themselves. They
Yes.
just need someone to help them bring it out, and just a person to ask the right questions so that they can, find that answer that's already within them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just help people work through specific issues or just get on board with the whole process in general.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be unschooling. It can be homeschooling because there's lots of different ways to homeschool.
Yes.
Um, and again, like I said, with the educational freedom, because I have one child that thrives completely in the wholly unschooling and one
Mm-hmm.
child that doesn't thrive when it's that way. I feel like it's important to help people like in both situations.
In both,
So
yeah.
there's just not one right or wrong answer, but helping people work through to figure out what's the best path for each of their children individually.
I love
Um,
that. And how
yeah.
can people connect with you? What do you have available?
Yeah, so I have my website, which is
Mm-hmm.
stephanieeige.com. And I have a lot of resources there. I write a blog that I post there. And usually that's just about the kinds of things that we're doing as a family,
Mm-hmm.
or something will strike me and I'm like, oh, I just need to share this story. And so I put that in there. I also have a Facebook page, Parenting, Unschooling and Respectful Parenting Advocate, where
Okay.
I changed it recently and it's got like educational freedom in there. But isn't
Okay.
that
Okay.
that's terrible? I can't remember. But
Yeah,
um,
no, no worries. I think everybody has
yeah,
like sometimes so many platforms, and
right.
some sites accept more characters than others, that
Yes,
you have to shorten some of it. But we'll have
right.
all the links available for people in case they want to connect with Stephanie. So you have your website, your Facebook page, and
I'm
what
on
else?
Instagram,
Okay.
YouTube. Everything is at Stephanie Eige. So just look
Okay.
for my name everywhere, and it should come up.
Just
Um,
Google
I
her name.
yeah. I also another thing that I'm going to start working on for unschoolers, homeschoolers is I recently became a travel agent, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to put together some travel packages specifically for people that are, homeschooling, unschooling, to like meet other people that are in the same position,
I love
and
that.
put together.
Okay, so the travel packages, so you're going to work on travel packages for families that are like unschooling families so they can go and meet up at like a certain place and have everything
Yeah,
planned out
that's
for
what I'm
them.
thinking. It's like picking a location that has a lot of different interesting things that we can, like meet up to do things together, have some social time, and then
Hmm.
families can also go off and do some things on their own. But then, like, we come back together to meet up and hang out and talk about, just our lives in general and get to know other people that are doing the same kinds of things we are.
That sounds like a fascinating idea. I definitely look forward to learning more about that because we travel a lot and I love traveling with purpose. But I think sometimes when we travel, it's definitely just us, unless you're
Yeah,
going to a specific, like a world schooling hub or something like that, that you
right,
are already connected with the people, then you get to immerse in the culture, but I think you miss out on that experience with other people that are
right.
perhaps traveling, in the same and have the same lifestyle and principles that you have as well. So,
Yeah, because we
yeah.
travel a lot as a family also, but that is something that's missing is just
Hmm.
all of my connections of people that are like similar to our lifestyle are
Yes.
online.
Hmm.
And I feel like there is a need to connect in person. Online relationships are wonderful and
Yes.
I love them and I appreciate mine so much.
Hmm.
But sometimes just getting into like, be in person together, it's just a different energy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I want to, create a space and a place for that to happen.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time, Stephanie, and definitely for your wisdom. I mean, I think your experience and I think what you've been through could definitely help a lot of people that are in this transition. So, yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to Stephanie, and check out her work. It's really amazing. I love the way you write. You're an excellent writer.
Thank
And I
you.
love how relatable your blog posts are, though. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you, everyone, for being here with us. Please remember that your time is precious. I hope you're making it count. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.